What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports. And we got the day after pod. Reaction to Eagles and the Rams. Eagles moving on to the NFC Championship game. And now basically that we have a little bit over right around 24 hours to get our minds cleared, get our minds into a proper thought process, especially my mind, because everybody knows here how much I love to overreact in the moment, overanalyze in the moment, and probably say things that aren't true and say things that I probably do and don't mean at the same time. And that definitely reflects on last night's game because it was 100% an emotional roller coaster, and the stress levels were just at an all-time high, and those stress levels definitely reflect in what I was talking about in last night's recap. So we're definitely going to look back and reflect and retract and maybe restate things that, and basically when you're in a clearer thought process, you could think more rationally. Yesterday I wasn't thinking rationally, and I'm going to be thinking more rationally today, especially about Jalen Hurts, this offense, and the way this Eagles team just wins, because obviously, there's criticisms to be had about the offense in Jalen Hurts. There's still plenty of those things to go around, but there's also a lot of positives to talk about at the same time with the way this team just finds ways to win. And that is the bottom line right here, and that is the main summary of this entire thing. This Eagles team just wins. With all of our criticisms, with all of our problems, with all of our issues with the offense, with the passing game, maybe some of the mistakes that Jalen makes, this team still wins. They're just winning. And at this point, when you're overanalyzing way too much, you're just going to drive yourself insane. So you just got to let this thing ride to the end and go on this entire journey. You can react. You can go through the emotional roller coaster because that's what every single game in the playoffs is like. And that's basically where we're going at this point. Another NFC Championship game in the link, in front of your home crowd, with a chance to go to another Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback. And that is one of the most important things to also bring up there at the same time. So before we get into the rest of everything, what's going on again, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And if you are new to the channel, I definitely recommend you hitting that subscribe button. It would do me such a great deal of service with the YouTube algorithm. You can also drop a like down below. Same thing with leaving a comment. I love, interacting with you guys down there. You can also use the code TTP Sports, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. It is a great deal. Do not pass it up. You can also drop a follow at TTP Sports on TikTok and Instagram for reels, shorts, all of that great stuff. Had a lot of, a few of those from yesterday's recap. Definitely going to grab a bunch from today's as well. So, getting into the business. I was very critical about Jalen Hurts last night, saying some things that were basically just pure reactionary and filled with all the emotion of yesterday's win. And some of the stuff, because obviously, yes, when you're talking about the passing game and the way that it's just, not really going, even though a lot of things you can account to the poor weather conditions yesterday. And even though I did bring up that, LA figured out their passing game for certain spurts throughout last night's contest, the Eagles really weren't able to do much in terms of the passing game. But I still think Jalen Hurts, he's involved in everything, right? Especially on some of those plays where Saquon managed to punch it in for those long touchdown runs, especially on the last one that Saquon had on the night on that 78-plus yard touchdown run. You see Jalen check down and change the play up a little bit so where it opens up a place for Saquon to break free and break loose, and he did the same exact thing on the first touchdown run. It's funny, too, because when you look at, one of the replays that has been going throughout Twitter, and it's basically Saquon and Jalen looking at each other right before Saquon bursts for that last touchdown of the night. And you really can't tell what Saquon is saying. Like, he tried to make the excuse in the post-game press conference that he was asking Jalen, am I in the wrong spot? Am I lined up wrong? Like, what am I in the right place or something like that? That's basically what Saquon said in the press conference, but it kind of really looked like Saquon was saying, watch this, or I got this, right before he just bursted downfield. And basically, to all of our thoughts, essentially close the game before we had to stress out for the last like 3 minutes of the game. We all thought in that process when the Eagles are doing their snow angels, when Saquon is sliding in the snow after that touchdown, we all think the game's over. No, sadly, we had to stress out that last every moment. But thanks to Jalen Carter for being an absolute stud. And we'll also get to Jalen Carter as well because, man, this dude is just getting better and better and better every single game. It just feels like it is every single week. Same thing with Nolan Smith, too. Those two, Nolan Smith, it feels like he's getting a sack every single game at this point. That's how electric he has been. So we'll definitely get into those two as we move on. But in terms of the offense, Jalen Hurts and his 44-yard touchdown run on the first drive of the game, yeah, some things definitely weren't pretty. The sacks, 100%, were not pretty whatsoever. Sometimes, yes, the awareness does become an issue. But the one thing that is so crucial to this team, the one thing that is so crucial, even it's a pattern throughout, I would say, every playoff game that we have seen so far this season. And it is a major byproduct of the teams that are in this Final Four of both championship games for the AFC and the NFC. And it's a common pattern that we see in all four teams, especially with the way that Jalen Hurts protects the football. This Eagles team so far, Jalen Hurts, the most important thing, the most crucial thing that we need to give credit for, he's not turning the football over. He just isn't. He's not, maybe you could say, I would say on that throw to the end zone to A.J. Brown near the end of the game, where I believe it was in triple coverage or double coverage, maybe that should have got picked off. But realistically, Jalen Hurts is not putting the ball in harm's way. Yes, he did have the fumble as well, but still the Eagles found a way to recover that. But so long in basically a lot of playoff games, and I think there's a stat too, between him and Pat Mahomes in terms of not turning the football over when they win games in the playoffs. And it's a really good stat. I should probably look that up in these next few minutes here. So I couldn't find that specific stat that I saw on Twitter yesterday it was probably yesterday or it was a couple of days ago between him and Pat Mahomes in terms of turnovers and all that stuff and what leads to success. But there's also something that I've been seeing scrolling through Twitter for the past couple of minutes that, specifically for a stat around Jalen Hurts when he, games that he has started and finished. So Jalen Hurts, he is 12-0 in his last 12 games that he has started and finished. He has 29 touchdowns. He's only turned the ball over 3 times, and he has a quarterback rating of 113.1. And like I said, when you're going through all the teams that have won and are in this position to play for getting into the Super Bowl, what is the one common thing that is between all of these teams? They don't turn the ball over. The Chiefs, Pat Mahomes hasn't turned the ball over. Josh Allen hasn't turned the ball over. And if you look at Josh Allen's stats compared to Jalen Hurts' stats from both last night's games, they're kind of very similar. And Jalen Hurts, for some reason, is the one that gets criticized more. So that is crazy in that sense. And, Jaden Daniels, he played spectacularly against the Detroit Lions. He didn't turn the ball over either. So all 4 teams haven't turned the ball over once, and those teams force turnovers at the same time. This Eagles defense is forcing turnovers at an insane rate. The Bills defense, they're getting interceptions, they're getting fumbles and all of that. Same thing with the Chiefs, same thing with the Washington Commanders. All these teams are here for a reason, and the main pattern that is between all of these teams is they don't turn over the ball and they force turnovers. What was the issue with Lamar Jackson last night? And yes, you could throw shade to Mark Andrews as well for those 2 drop passes, especially one of the fumble and the 2-point conversion drop pass, which would have tied the game up late. But what was the difference? Baltimore turned the ball over. What about Justin Herbert? Turned the ball over. What about Jordan Love? He turned the ball over. What about all the other teams that have lost in these playoffs? Same thing with the Los Angeles Rams. They turned the ball over. Detroit, Jared Goff, all the interceptions that they've had against Washington, turning the ball over way too much. And that's why those teams did not end up winning the games. You don't turn the ball over, you put your offense in a better position for success, your defense forces turnovers, and in turn also put your offense even in more positions for success. You're probably going to end up winning those games. You're going to advance further in the playoffs. And that is something that has been very, very, very crucial in terms of Jalen Hurts and this stretch for the Eagles. And that's something that needs to get praised more. Jalen Hurts not turning the football over equals wins. And yes, like I said, I've had my fair criticisms of Jalen, and it's not because it's a Jalen hater. No way in hell. I love Jalen. It's what I've seen. It's basically in terms of I believe the passing game can be way better than it is, and I think everybody can agree to that because we've seen this passing game be way better. We saw it against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of weeks ago when everyone was criticizing the passing game even before then. We've seen what this passing game is capable of this year, in years past, and, we've seen it be good. We've seen it be great. We've seen it be elite. And maybe that's just the way the team is this year. And, at this point of the season, when you're in the NFC Championship game, that probably is what you are at this point. But I think the passing game will eventually find some strides. And also, when you're in better weather conditions, I think you'll be able to find a way to get a passing game going more consistently, finding A.J. Brown, finding Devontae Smith, and even going in the last night's game as well. Jalen Hurts' passing numbers probably could have been way better if it wasn't for some drops. If it wasn't for, the A.J. Brown drop at the end of the half, where the Eagles probably could have punched it in for a touchdown at the end if he didn't drop it near the 10-yard line. Dallas Goedert, he had a very huge chunk yard play, which was negated because of an eligible man downfield. There were quite a few drops yesterday from the Eagles receivers, which probably could have made Jalen Hurts' passing stats look way better than they finished as. So it's not basically all on Jalen. It's a whole collective unit. And that's something that I really didn't, express yesterday was, mainly putting a lot of the blame on Jalen, and I did not want it to come across that way at all. I think it's, the play calling definitely isn't putting Jalen in the best positions either. And I'm not sure if that's a Kellen Moore problem. I'm not sure if that's a Nick Sirianni problem, because maybe they're trying to limit him and maybe they don't trust Jalen to do certain things or anything like that, even though we've seen Jalen do maybe the things that they're not asking him to do before, because we've seen Jalen Hurts be an MVP candidate on a year, they go to the Super Bowl and lose to the Chiefs. Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate, halfway through last season before the entire collapse. So Jalen Hurts is capable of fantastic quarterback play. So I'm not sure if that's just the way this team is going this year, and that's the way Jalen Hurts is being coached. And maybe that's a really huge benefit of Jalen, that he is willing to accept this path, because Jalen is a winner, right? This dude is just so heavily just wants to win. He is obsessed with winning. He is obsessed with doing anything it takes to win. I don't think Jalen Hurts cares about his stats. He doesn't care the way that his passer rating looks. He doesn't care the way that his completion and touchdowns look. I'm sure he cares about the turnovers, and that's a huge, crucial part into his game in protecting the football, but he doesn't care the way his other numbers look. If he is involved and the team finds a way to win, and the team is winning because of that philosophy, because of that recipe, Jalen Hurts is going to stick to that because it's resulting in winning football. If Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do that much in the passing game, where it's just, handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley, maybe you get a few, passing plays going to AJ, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. You rely on this offensive line with some yards for Saquon, same thing with Jalen and his legs, and then the defense just continues to dominate it and dominate and dominate. Really, Jalen doesn't have to do that much. He just has to, like I said, which was been very, very crucial to this team, make the simple plays, make the plays you have to make, don't turn the ball over. And Jalen, for pretty much a while, has been doing that. And he deserves so much credit for, because he is involved in these wins. Like I said earlier, he's involved in checking down those plays, and changing up the structure of the play, which allows Saquon to get those long touchdown runs. He finds something in the defense, he switches the call up a little bit, and that helps open that hole for Saquon to find those weaknesses. That's a Jalen Hurts thing. So, and yes, there's a lot of things, and I'm going to keep bringing this up, that we have issues with the passing game. I feel like that's more, instead of just a Jalen Hurts thing, that is more of a team thing. That's more of a Kellen Moore type of thing. Because, yes, a lot of people are starting to sour on Kellen Moore at this point. And, everything with the coaching interviews and all that stuff, being interviewed by the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure a lot of Eagles fans don't mind if Kellen Moore were to leave in the offseason for a head coaching position or something like that. But in terms of Jalen Hurts, he's doing enough. He is doing completely enough for this team to win, and right now it's resulting in wins, so he really shouldn't be overanalyzing all of this stuff because it's going to drive us insane at the end of the day if we're nitpicking this, nitpicking that, looking at how, Jalen Hurts is not having 300 plus passing yards on the day. He's not throwing the ball 40 times. He's not throwing deep balls. He's not trying to make those big, fantastic plays, plays all the way down the field where you're getting to the 5-yard line, setting yourself up in perfect field position. He doesn't have to do that. That is not the type of quarterback. Even though Jalen Hurts can make those plays, he doesn't need to be that guy. He doesn't need to be a Joe Burrow. He doesn't need to be the guy that passes 40 times a game, that passes 50 times a game, because he has so many other things involved with his offense that's going to lead to success. You have the best running back in the league, and you don't have to pass it too much because, yes, it's a rarity that A.J. Brown has 2 drops in a game. I don't think A.J. Brown's going to have more than 2 drops against the Washington Commanders. I think he's going to have a way better game going into next week, 100%. You still got Devontae Smith. You still got Dallas Goedert. You don't have to throw it so many times because the plays that you do make, the passes that you do make, those guys are going to make it count. So there's so many things to make this offense churn that the passing game just doesn't have to be dynamic. It doesn't have to be elite. It just has to be passable. Because there's so many other things that this team does to win. Saquon Barkley is a huge part of that. He really is. This man, Saquon Barkley, is worth all the pennies in the world. Everything of that contract in only 1 year of the contract. This is probably, I would say, in terms of signings for Philadelphia athletes, this is probably one of the best first years of a contract that I think anybody in Philadelphia has ever experienced. Personally, I wouldn't be able to know who even compares to, a big name coming over, signing a huge contract, or even a big trade or something like that, and having this large of an impact in their first season in Philadelphia. I'm trying to think of the athletes that probably even made that big of an impact when they come over here as much as Saquon probably has. And the one person that really just comes to mind, maybe Roy Halladay. And Roy Halladay, that first year in the Philadelphia Phillies uniform in 2010, he was spectacular. Cy Young, perfect game, no-hitter in the first game of the NLDS. Roy Halladay was something special, especially in that first year in a Phillies uniform, and everything just went right for him. Sadly, the Phillies weren't able to finish the ultimate goal that year, but in terms of just like player performance and the impact that he had for the team, maybe that's the comparable. Maybe that's what's related to it. And Saquon Barkley is having a Roy Halladay-esque type of season. Maybe even better at this point because right now you're going for an NFC championship game. And yes, that Phillies team did go to the NLCS in 2010 and lost to the San Francisco Giants. But right now you have a chance at home to go to a Super Bowl against one of your division rivals. And it's funny, too. I think people have been posting on Twitter that Saquon Barkley's birthday is the same exact day as the Super Bowl in New Orleans. So maybe there's fate. Maybe there's fate. Maybe there's destiny involved in that. Maybe it ends perfectly. I have no idea. I'm not guaranteeing anything because at this point, you just got to let the journey fly and let it ride, man, because you just got to cherish it. I think that's the most important thing that I've learned in this past 24 hours instead of like overreacting, overanalyzing, because there's a lot of people that are doing that. And especially in the terms of Jalen Hurts, because Hunter Brody did post a caller from his overnight shift on WIP last night that was just going crazy in terms of criticizing Jalen Hurts to this extreme extent, which was just like, okay. I was critical of Jalen Hurts last night, but my God, that's not what I think. I criticize him because I know he could be. I know there's betterness in the passing game, but I know as a whole, Jalen Hurts is great. This dude is just like, it's not valuable for Jalen Hurts to run a 44-yard touchdown run. But how is that not valuable? It's not a quarterback play, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what are we talking about here? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And there's a clip going around, same thing with Chris Sims, and talking about the way that last night's game went out. That just it's just a bunch of what ifs. What if this? What if that? What if this happened? Maybe the Rams win. What if this didn't happen? The Rams win, or something like that. You could put that in the Eagles' favor too. What if A.J. Brown doesn't drop that pass near the end zone at the end of the half? What if the Eagles didn't call for an eligible man downfield on that big Dallas Goedert passing play? The Eagles probably put more points up on the board. So you could do it both ways. And I actually do want to bring up this Chris Sims audio because it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And Chris Sims does have an history with, criticizing the team, Eagles and Jalen Hurts, especially going back to 22 in that Super Bowl run. So let's play this because my God, this is stupid.
Have the best team, but you think that they'll be in a position right now this week going up against the Commanders where he will mess up? Why?
Oh, well, not mess up. I don't think that. I just think they got to play better. And listen, some of their struggles in their pass game, I don't put them all on him. They're a little too simple with what they do in their pass game schematically. That's one of their big issues altogether. And as you saw yesterday with some of these long touchdown runs, they can run the ball on anybody. It doesn't matter how many people you put in the box. It's one of the greatest offensive lines in the history of football, what we see in Philadelphia. And they can win a lot of games the way they're winning right now and the way he's playing. I'm just saying if they want to maybe win this weekend or have to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the passing game, the offense we saw, and again, not all Jalen Hurts, but what we saw yesterday, that will not get it done. They will not win the Super Bowl if that's the passing game we see, or even this week against the Commanders, right? I mean, that game yesterday, let's say it was 130 plays. The Rams definitely won the majority of those plays. If it's not for 2 strips by the Eagles defense and basically the 3 long touchdown runs, I would say you take away those 5-6 plays there, the Rams football team won the majority of the plays on the field in the game that day. That shouldn't be. The Eagles didn't play their best ball, and they got to find ways to throw the ball a little bit better because they got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who I would argue is the best duo receiver in football too. And it's inexcusable for them not to be in the game plan a little bit more.
No. Just a bunch of what ifs. If those forced turnovers don't happen, if Nolan Smith doesn't punch the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hand, same thing with Jalen Carter. If Jalen Carter doesn't punch the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hand, if Saquon doesn't have those long touchdown runs, the LA Rams win the game. No shit. You're stating the fucking obvious there. And like I said, you could reverse it in the same way for the Eagles. A.J. Brown doesn't drop the ball near the end zone, near the end of the half. If the Eagles don't get called for an eligible man down the field on that long Dallas Goedert play where one of the defenders slipped and he got a huge chunk yard, the Eagles probably score more fucking points. The Eagles probably go by multiple scores going into the half. They probably don't have to stress out that end portion of the game. It's just a whole what-if scenario. Why is that the narrative? Why is that the narrative? Yes, the passing game could be 20 billion times better. This is the recipe that's working for the Eagles. It is. And let's also remember that when the Eagles played the Commanders a few weeks ago in Washington, before Jalen Hurts went down with an injury, the Eagles were putting up points on the board like it was nothing on Washington, and they were well looking to run away with that game before Jalen Hurts got knocked out with a concussion 11 plays into it. The Eagles were probably going to put up 30 plus, 40 plus on Washington, and it probably wouldn't have been a contest. So you can even use revisionist history on that. Yes, Washington, they're having a magical run. Jaden Daniels is playing some fantastic ball. He's obviously going to be the offensive rookie of the year. He's playing fantastic. He is a special player. Yes, he went into a hostile environment in Detroit and destroyed the game. Completely took over the game for Washington. But it's also going up into against, if you want to use facts, if you want to use logic here, Detroit was down to street-level utility players. They were down to janitors. They were janitor quality players. They had so many injuries on the defensive side, at least 50 billion injuries on their defensive side. they were down to third, fourth string, fifth string guys that are on the practice squad, guys that have to be called into the practice squad. That's how depleted their defense was. And yes, Jaden Daniels played a very good game, but you also got to look at face value. He went up against a very banged up defense. And yes, the Eagles do have some, maybe some injuries in their defense. Quinyon Mitchell, it does sound like the injury is not as bad as it seems, so most likely I would expect him to play. We're going to have to wait and see what the injury reports and practices are like this week. But if he does play, and maybe that shoulder is an issue, get those cortisone shots in there. That is most likely going to be an impact on that situation. So, and relatively, besides Quinyon Mitchell, it is a healthy defense. And yes, we're going to have to wait and see how Jalen is with the knee this week, because that is definitely going to be a huge question mark in terms of how he's going to play. I think there were some good moments when he returned into the game yesterday in terms of his mobility. So I'm not really that much concerned in the slightest. We just have to wait and see how everything goes this week with Jalen, which he's 100% is going to play. I don't think they're going to go anywhere close to a different route there, because that would mean something even more bad happened, which I don't expect at all. But it's, I don't know, man. Just it really, because I was critical yesterday. I was very critical yesterday. But when I hear some of these people's reactions and some of the people that just go completely over the top, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Is that how I sound? Is that how I sound? Because that is nowhere close to what I think. I kind of do want to play the call that Brodes had yesterday, because that is something that just really, really stands out. Oh, yeah, here's the stat that I had about, Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes. I had it right here on my tabs, and I didn't even look at it. My God, I'm an idiot. Don't mind me. So most consecutive playoff games without an interception in NFL history. Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes, 6 consecutive playoff games. Mahomes has 1,556 yards and 11 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, he has 1,342 yards and 12 touchdowns. So there is some comparables right there. So some good stuff. I need to bring up this Brodes thing here, because I think it stands out way too much in terms of the caller. It's just unreal. It is just unreal. I think it is a very long call too. It's a 5-minute call. We could definitely listen to it right here. So we're going to listen to this. We'll get to a voicemail line, because we do have a voicemail from Sean, and then we'll end it off here, because I'm going to do a lot of stuff here tonight in terms of editing. So let's get to this and hear the ridiculousness, and we'll continue from there.
Let's go to Mike in Washington Township. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How you doing, man? Been a fan for over 55 years. Thrilled they're going to the championship game again. But I don't understand how you can have this love for Jalen. He's been bad for 8 quarters.
Well, I'm in the NFC Championship game.
Hold the ball.
Yeah,
the 52-man roster is
correct.
So much better than the other team's 52-man
roster.
Well,
he's the quarterback, and quarterbacks have a huge role in the outcome of games.
Not in this one.
No, he does.
He didn't.
No, yes, he did. He had a 44-yard. He had a 44-yard. He had a 44-yard touchdown run to start the game.
Yeah, but he's not a running back. He's a quarterback.
Correct. And he scored a touchdown by running at 44 yards.
I understand that.
Yeah, he's in the NFC He's in the NFC Championship game.
You were happy with his quarterback play yesterday?
I believe he did not turn the ball over and helped you win the game.
Not my question.
Okay, what's your question?
Were you happy with how he played yesterday?
I wasn't mad.
I don't think you're looking at it right. He was
well.
Terrible.
I mean, I'm in an NFC Championship game for 2 out of 3 years with him being the quarterback.
Yeah, because they got to play the Giants and a 49ers team without a quarterback, and they got to play a very bad Packers team and a not very good Rams team.
But that.
Did this man say a very bad Packers team? A very bad Packers team? The Packers were like top 7 in defense this year. What the fuck is this guy even talking about? Like, what the fuck? I just realized that. What the fuck?
But Jalen wins every game, baby. Every game.
I'm not saying he doesn't win. That's not the issue.
Well,
if
all he does is win, then why are you complaining about him?
Because he was terrible.
Well, he won the football game.
That's not the sole issue.
Then what's the issue?
When they need it, when is he going to be good?
When that, he wins. When this happens,
you're being totally foolish.
How am I? He's in an NFC Championship game again.
Not because of him.
No, false. You're a quarterback. You cannot be a quarterback of an NFL football team, make it through 18, 19 games, and not have a part of it if you're getting every single snap.
So Trent Dilfer had anything to do with that team winning the Super Bowl?
Yes, he's the quarterback of the football
Trent
team.
Dilfer helped the
And
Ravens win the Super Bowl.
the one example you could bring up is that's the only example in NFL history that you could bring up.
Okay, when he wins the Super Bowl, I'll change it. And it doesn't even matter. I'm rooting for him.
No, you're not. Nah, you're absolutely not. You're not rooting for him.
Oh, I'm definitely rooting for him.
You're definitely not. You're not rooting for him.
I'm 100%
because all you're doing is saying that he
him.
sucks all day. You don't see any positives he brings to the table. So you clearly have a.
I never said that. I never said there were no positives. I said he's been bad for 8 quarters, and you're ignoring it.
Well, no, because he hasn't been.
Sure he has.
No, he hasn't been.
You have eagle glasses on. He's been terrible.
No, he hasn't been terrible. You can't win in the playoffs with terrible quarterback play for 8 quarters.
You can.
No, you can't. Because that means he wasn't as bad as what you're saying.
No, he's been terrible.
No, he hasn't been terrible.
Yeah, sure he has.
How many interceptions did Jordan Love throw? How many interceptions did Jordan Love throw?
I didn't say.
How many interceptions did Jordan Love throw?
Being better than Jordan Love was that game doesn't mean you were good.
Come on, man. In the playoffs, he had 0 interceptions against Green Bay.
So
that is just as
important. That's the bar.
Yes, because go look at Jared Goff, go look at the Ravens, go look at Justin Herbert, go look at every single quarterback, the Rams, every single quarterback who constantly turn the football over in their playoff games are sending their ass back home because that is insanely crucial to winning in the postseason, and Jalen doesn't turn it over. So yes, the bar in the playoffs is part of the bar is do not turn the football over, and you will be in a great position to win in our quarterback.
When you're the better team. When you're the better team.
But that's this team. That's this team. So we have a formula that is elite and the best in the NFC, and you're not accepting it.
I'm not accepting bad quarterback play.
Well, we don't have bad quarterback play, so you don't got to worry about it, Mike. We don't have bad quarterback play. You can't win with bad quarterback play. You can't win. Can't win with bad quarterback play. You wouldn't be here if you had bad quarterback play for 8 quarters.
Oh man, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. That guy, man. Like I said, some of the criticisms of Hurts goes way too far. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. So, to close it out here, we do have a call on the Anytime Hotline. We'll get to Sean, see what he has to say. Oh, I'm sorry. That was just funny. It's also looking at Brodes' reaction, just watching it on the video on Twitter. I felt bad because he had the overnight shift 2 to 5 a.m. And I was just like, my God, why am I dealing with this at 5 in the morning? But let's get to Sean.
So, an early look ahead to Sunday's game. First of all, I already see the media is doing what we know they're going to do, bashing Jalen Hurts and this offense in general for their lack of productivity in the passing game. Funny, but I don't remember seeing Josh Allen do a whole lot through the air yesterday either, but, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a lick the balls of Jaden Daniels type of week. The media, the national pundits are all going to side with the Commanders, the Cinderella story. And, look, credit to the Commanders. Daniels is a legitimate talent. They made some nice acquisitions in the offseason via draft and free agency. But my initial thoughts are still the Eagles are the more talented team. The Washington had a serious injury on their offensive line. Their offensive guard, Cosme, is out for the year. You wonder if that opens things up for Carter, Davis, Williams, etc. And, the hell with the passing game. The Eagles got to run the ball. Washington, I don't think, is real adept at stopping the run. You got to get Saquon touches early and often. And you have to shut down Brian Robinson, who may be a key cog for them in this game. The Eagles' run defense these first 2 playoff games hasn't been very stellar. In closing, we watched the injury report closely. I mean, what's the status of Jalen Hurts? Yeah, he's probably going to play, but at what percentage is he, and can he move? And is Kenyon Mitchell's injury more than what we've been led to believe? I know Mitchell says it's no big deal, but usually that means it's something more serious. We'll see, but that's my initial thoughts so far.
Oh, yeah, even go to the Brian Robinson thing. The Eagles forced a couple of fumbles off Brian Robinson in their last matchup in Washington, before Jalen Hurts got knocked out of the game and all of that stuff. So I'm not worried about that. We'll get more into Washington as the week progresses, so that's not really something for today. But yeah, the injury report's something we're going to have to look through. Obviously, it's going to be national media. They've been doing it today already, criticizing Jalen Hurts. You already heard the Chris Sims type of thing. So it's going to be like that all week. So as we get closer to Washington, we'll get into more of a preview type of thing. But yeah, criticism of Jalen Hurts. I had my fair share of criticisms yesterday, but I still believe Jalen Hurts is a major cog into this team's success, and I think that just cannot go understated. That just cannot go by the wayside, because Jalen Hurts is a major reason why this team is winning. He's part of the major reasons. It's just that simple. It is that simple. Not turning the football over is a huge, huge deal. And that's why a lot of these other teams going home. And that's why the Eagles are in this position once again to host an NFC Championship game. So that'll do it for today, everybody. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. I'd like to see those, as always. Also, don't forget to use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Does me a great deal of service. So, appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight, and I will see you next time.